spiritual but not religious. There are many, many ways I have said this through the years. There are many, many ways that I've experienced it through the years because I was very wounded by the religion of my upbringing. And I wanted to talk to us about that because many of us have walked away from the faith of our childhood, walked away from organized religion. And my favorite saying is, of course, that unity is not an organized religion. We are the farthest thing from organized, otherwise you'd know about us. But, but that is the joke, right? And that is also the truth, because we came out of an understanding that we weren't creating a religion. What we were doing was creating a spiritual practice that augmented your faith, your practice, your understanding of what divinity is and was. And out of that, more and more people kept insisting that we have Sunday services, that we have organizations, that we have buildings, places to meet and gather. And so we stand here today in this building because of that movement of energy that wanted a different way. And I think we're on the cusp of that again, that the world is crying for a different way. So let's take this statement apart, right? Many of us have felt the wounds of organized religion, right? If you're a woman in this world and you were told by the faith you were brought up in that you can't be a clergy member, you can't even stand on platform, you're not allowed to read scriptures, you're not allowed to do this and that, and the other thing in the service is beyond what you are capable of because of your gender. That's a wound. That is a systematic wound that says you are not worthy. And I think it is in our best interest not to sit in the wound, but to acknowledge it. Not to let it become an identity that I'm wounded. That's not the point, but it's to say this is a fact and this is what I've overcome, right? So it may be that. It may be that you are LGBTQ, like myself, right? And you were told by a clergy member of your faith that you should hide that. You should get married to a woman and pretend for the rest of your life. And so you, like me, walked away. Or that your sexual expression, the way you are, is unworthy of God's love. Let me be really clear. There is nothing in the world unworthy of divine love. But human beings say that all the time. Human beings make that a condition of belonging, and it creates a wound that we must step in and heal. You may have been like my grandmother. So from the time I was a little kid, I loved going to grandma's house. Anybody else did that? Just loved, oh my God, the unconditional love I got from grandma, because there were 4 kids in my household and trying to get attention, and I was the loud, different kid. And grandma would take me in and I'd go spend the weekend with grandma. And she'd walk me around the corner. The Lady of Good Counsel Church was just a couple blocks from her house. And on Sunday mornings, because my parents insisted that I go to church on Sunday, she'd walk me around the corner, put me in the back door of the church, and I'd sit there and I'd attend Mass. And when Mass was over, grandma was standing on the steps outside to walk me back home. At 7 or 8 years old, I didn't think anything of that. But when I was a teenager, I finally asked Mom, I said, why did grandma had just passed away, and I said, why did grandma never come into church with me? She'd just take me to the door and never go in. And she said, oh, when your grandma was a young woman, she had a child. You had an uncle, Matt, and he died at 5 years old of leukemia. And because grandma and grandpa weren't married in the church, the priest refused to give Matt a burial in the church. And from that moment on, grandma refused to step foot in the church. And learning that story just made me so proud of Grandma. Such a backbone. And that's a wound. That's the wound of organized religion. Meant in some way to lift people, but ends up hurting people. There are many others. The hypocrisy of organized religion, the classism of organized religion, the racism of organized religion, using the Gospels to justify slavery, using the gospel to justify segregation, using Scripture to keep people down, and the wealth hoarding. All of those things are the reasons many of us say, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. Right? And rightfully so, when faced with all of that hurt and all of that pain. Rightfully so. But there's a hunger beneath the phrase. It's a slogan, it's something we say, but it also exemplifies a longing. I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. It's separating ourselves from the pain, but also acknowledging I have a connection to something greater than just me. I have a connection to something that means more. I have a connection to the divine. I am spiritual. It's an inner knowing that we are never separate from the divine. I am a spiritual being having this human experience. Spirituality is my destiny, my birthright. And that's why the saying becomes important. And then it involves heart healing practices, serving others, being of service. Being of service to our fellow man is one of the most important things that we can ever do. I'm looking around right now at the room, and I know I have some of them online too. There are prayer chaplains are in this room, and former prayer chaplains are in this room, all around, because they have answered the call to serve, to hold the higher watch. The people who sing in the music team and the band here, who make this place different for us every week, are serving us. There are people downstairs. I can smell the food. Can you? Online, you'd have to trust me. It really smells good in the room right now because that aroma has wafted up. And there are people who are serving us so that we can have this spiritual experience with song, with music, with prayer, with words, with presence. And that's the longing. Spiritual but not religious is about, I want an experience and way to express my divine nature, my true identity. And I want it to be something larger than I have ever experienced before. Something that takes us beyond the walls of a church, beyond the walls of a cathedral, beyond the collar of clergy, into an experience of knowing that wherever we are, whoever we are with, we are in the presence of the divine. We are in the presence of holiness. WHOLLY. Holy and whole. HOLE. Whole. 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 Let me fall into the whole of nothing. Holy, holy, and whole. When I can stop all the noise on the outside and fall into the silence of meditation. When I can fall into the silence of being holy, HOLY. I know that I am an expression of the divine. When I fall into that silence, I know I am holy. because I cannot be different than how I was created. It cannot be different than that wonderful moment of creation when I arrived. No matter what I've done, no matter what I've not done, no matter what has happened to me, no matter what I've done to others. All that is, like I mentioned earlier, in the past. And in this moment, when I step into this wholeness and this holiness and into the silence, I can remember the truth. I am one with Spirit. I am one with God. I am a magnificent expression of divine love. And that is why I am spiritual, but not religious. There is more that we need to discover about God's presence, about our holiness. And I'd like us to take a look at what it means to be spiritual. Of or relating, this is from Merriam-Webster, to spirit, incorporeal, not about the physical. It's about something larger than this physical body. And it's our personal experience of the divine. It's intimate, it's direct, it's immediate. And religious is defined as faithful devotion to an ultimate reality or deity. And I spoke about this a couple weeks ago, and I want to reiterate it. I want to reiterate this. I do believe that there is this energy, this force, this presence that I like to call God. You may call it any other name. It does not care what you call it. It just exists and is constantly giving. So call it spirit, call it Jesus, call it universe, call it love, call it source, call it anything. It is the one power. And when we have our devotion to that one power, then it's focused correctly. Because the one power, the power that is the creative energy, exists everywhere within us and everything around. What gets confusing is that we associate that one power with an organization, a religion. And so I've talked about it before, the idea that out of all the 8 billion people on the planet, that there's only one true religion is just poppycock. I'm being polite today. I don't know why, but I'm being polite today. Poppycock, because all of us are magnificent expressions of the divine. Each and every being on the planet, human and other beings on the planet, are part of that divine expression. And so when we stop worshiping the religion and start worshiping spirit itself, we are stepping into the right realm. And that's the key. So what if we were to say, I am spiritual, but not religious because I don't believe in the limitations of religion. I don't believe in calcified rituals. I believe in alive, vibrant rituals that bring more and more people together. So there's nothing wrong with all the world's religions except what human beings have done to them. Made them exclusive clubs, made them rituals without relevance, right? Rituals without life itself in it. So what spirit is for me, what God is for me, is life itself. It is the energy that amplifies and that lifts us all and that stands under everything we are. So when we can step fully into honoring life and letting go of the label of religion and the limitations of human religions, we can step into a celebration that says, I am not just spiritual. This is not working. Here we go. We can step into what Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, said. Religion is not a creed. It is a life. So we can say, yes, I am religious because I am worshiping, I am in honor of, I am alive with, I am in communion with that energy of life we call the divine. Not in organized religion, but I am in relationship with spirit. I am in communication and communion with spirit. And then I can say, I am spiritual and I am religious because I see there is a bigger picture. I see there is something more than me and my desires and my needs and mine. There is all of us together. There is a community of followers. There's a community of possibility. And that's where we can step in as individuals and as a community of faith, a community of understanding, a community that knows that each and every one is a valuable expression of divine life, and that if we eliminate or exclude any one individual, it diminishes us all. A community that understands that it is more important to be together, no matter what's going on, and to hold space, even in the midst of someone having a medical emergency in the middle of service, in the middle of a meditation, someone having to have a personal experience in the middle of our services. So be it, it's part of life. Holding each other in grief, holding each other in sadness, holding each other in hope that there is something greater right on the other side beyond this veil. Religion is the truth that knows that we are all one community. It doesn't need to shame or control. The word constitutes spirit, both and. So what if we could say unity is a spiritual community that honors the true meaning of religious? I am in devotion to something greater than me. Be that a community, be that a movement, be that a higher calling, but not about perpetuating ourselves, but perpetuating and lifting humankind. So just clicked right by that. Ryan, can you pull up shifting the energy? So I invite us to shift and to look at our words when we say, I'm spiritual, but not religious. And for yourself to look at it and go, yeah, I'm a spiritual being. I know you are. You're here. You're online. You're here. You're devoting your Sunday morning because you want an experience like I've had of true religion, true understanding of what it is to see, to feel, and to know God. Take a deep breath. Let it go. Take another breath. And hold it as long as you can. And when you're ready, let it go. There is more than enough life in this room, more than enough light in this room, and more than enough holiness in this room to light the entire world, to lift the entire planet, to shift what is to what could be.